to go on another volcano. It's a beautiful day in Hilo. Left front we have Heather and Wes. In the back we have Hiroshi, Keiko, Sadeko, and Shigaru.
Land of make-believe come true. Please take me to your heart, Hawaiian heaven, never more to part from you. Let me live and laugh with you while love is young. And let me rescue when my day is through. Hawaiian paradise, at last I found you. Land of make-believe come true. Hawaiian
Okay, can everyone hear me? Hear me okay in the front? Guys hear me all okay in the back? Okay, before we have to go to another safety briefing, first of all, welcome on board. And my name is Paul, and there will be no smoking in the aircraft. Keep your safety belts securely fastened at all times. The fire extinguisher is located off on my right side, right on the floor. Basic type of fire extinguisher. Just point, pull the pin, pull the trigger, and shoot. This aircraft is equipped with an emergency locator transmitter beacon. It'll go on automatically or manually if you need it. To open your seat belt, simply lift up the tabs and separate. To open these doors, you need the silver handle down and push out. These doors are equipped with emergency jettison handle knobs located in the 4 lower section of the door. To activate that, pull the plastic cover inward, pull the orange handle up, and the door should fall away. First aid kit and survival kits are located underneath the back seat. This aircraft for ventilation is air conditioned. In the front you have this one vent north of the both of you have to fight over. But there's 2 here on top. In the back there's a row of 4 across the top. You can just your comfort. Also, if you see me talking and you don't hear anything, I'm on the radio. And there are times I'll be talking, you're in the middle of a sentence, I'll just stop, just probably responding to a radio call. Normally when that happens, I actually forget what I was talking about, so there are times that I repeat myself. And if you have any questions, I'll give Tower a call to get some clearance, and we'll be on the go. Good afternoon. Blue 32 is at the CAT. We'd like an east departure south, and we have information, Mike. 0532 on the spot. 32 is on the go. And we're coming up. You might have noticed this area up ahead that some of the homes out here will have those above ground swimming pools. Those are not really swimming pools, but water catchments used to store and collect rainwater. Since there is no county or city water in this area, for water they pretty much have to collect it on their own. So people, what they'll do is they'll buy bottled water in town for cooking and drinking, and the water that they collect they primarily use for washing. Other homes with a more sophisticated filtering system, they pretty much use the water that they collect for everything. Under normal conditions, it rains so often in this area that you pretty much can't support an average-sized family with one of those water catchment systems, and they do collect the rain off of their roof. So the larger roof area you have, the more water you collect per rain period. The people question if they could drill wells in these areas. Well, you could. We do have some wells closer to Hilo. But drilling on the side of an active volcano, you really don't know what you're going to end up with. You may end up with more than just water. I think out here the only homes with county water would be the homes along the highway, and there's Highway 130 off to the left, and Highway 11's off our far right side. Highway 130 that passed here off of the left is also the highway that's been covered by this current lava flow. So the highway is closed right at the Kalapana area. Some of the older maps that are unfortunately still in circulation still show that you can travel on Highway 130 along the shoreline through Kalapana and on out towards the Volcanoes National Park. Of course, it is no longer true. That highway is closed, so if you do find yourself on that highway, you pretty much be coming back the same way. And once you get past these homes below us, we can sort of get a little lower. The forest area we're seeing up ahead of us is pretty much classified as a rainforest. Trees out here are called ohia, and the larger fern that you might see, that's called hapu. Rainfall for this area will range anywhere from around 145 to 180 inches per year. For animal life in this area, you have a lot of wild pigs and goats, many different varieties of birds. For smaller animal life, you have a lot of rats, mice, and mongoose. We have no snakes anywhere out here, or in the entire state for that matter, except maybe in the Honolulu Zoo, and I believe there's a few in the county and state buildings too. And there's really nothing out here that's deadly poisonous, either plant, animal, or insect-wise, unless of course you're allergic to a particular thing. Little fingers of lava you see up ahead and I guess towards the left through the forest. Those are from some older lava flows. Those are actually from the 70s, there's 75 and 1977. There's some older flows farther down slope towards the left from the 60s, 62, 63. Some of the oldest visible lava, meaning you can actually see it on the surface, not completely covered in vegetation like the stuff below us, from the 50s, 1950 and also 1955. There's some older flows though up ahead towards the right from the 40s. Coming up there ahead of us, looks like there's a rain shower on it right now, is the Pu'u O'o vent, and this latest eruption started back in 1983. Prior to that date, there was no mountain or hill or anything there. As a matter of fact, everything you see here ahead of us is to the left of the aircraft, where you see the black or shiny lava. Those areas was actually all forest. As a matter of fact, you can see some of the older forests, little islands of trees you see here and there. Those were actually higher ground before the lava came through. But then on that date, 3 January 83, the ground cracked open. Lava started fountaining out at times up to 1,400 feet to the air, creating what is called a splatter cone, which is basically what you see there. I'll see if I can find a spot we can see it. The way you get, it gets to just the ferns that are dying. I guess the ferns are a little weaker. Basically, detect the prominent winds during that period is all this way. So all these plants are dying here. So in the movie, I don't know if you've seen the movie Dante's Peak, where they had the scene where the trees were dying in the forest just before the eruption. Well, I guess something like that is true. Into these large sinkholes or old craters here. Very deep, very steep slopes. You really want to be just roaming around in this forest outside of the trails, because as you can see, the ground could just suddenly disappear. And this is the Nepal crater again off our left. The surface flows into steam. And this company spends over $1 million on a helicopter. You could find it with some windshield wipers. Some of the yellow or white powdery substance you're seeing on the surface, like you see along here, that's sulfur. Some of the brown or tannish colored stuff is actually rust or oxidation from the high iron content in a lava field. Scientists say the lava that you see along here comes from a magma reservoir that's about 40 miles straight down into the earth from here, comes up via tubes to another reservoir that's slightly below the surface, and then from there travels via more tubes to the surface. Once the magma reaches the surface and starts to flow, it is then referred to as lava. So when you hear the terms magma and lava, they're basically the same material. It's just that the magma is deep inside the earth and the lava flows around the surface or within the lava tubes. Once the lava flows on the surface and it starts to cool and harden, it actually becomes a very good insulator. That's one of the reasons why the lava tubes will form, why the lava will remain at such a high temperature so far away from its source. All the lava you see here below us and ahead of us, this stuff was all created within the last 3.5 years. So if it came out here, let's say 4 years ago, surface below and up ahead, it looked very similar to what you see here off of the right side of the aircraft, in both the vegetation and in type of terrain. In this area here, there were no homes or structures destroyed. This is basically all unused land within the Volcanoes National Park boundaries. The National Park, though, did lose some structures. They lost the Wahaula Visitor Center, and that was destroyed in the middle of June of 1989. And they also lost the Kilauea campgrounds, but that was basically just a picnic area, camping area. They lost a couple of picnic tables and a pavilion. Right side first, and then we'll come around and put it on the left. This was the last spot where the lava entered the ocean. The thing here, though, about a month ago, we had an excess of 25 acres of land just broke off the coast and fell into the ocean one morning. So all the land that you see from this cliff that's just onshore, goes straight across. You see the shoreline now, a little bit of steam there. That was created within a 2-week time period by the lava flows. Just to give you some idea of just how quickly the lava can create new land. And that wasn't a very easy task, because there's no Hawaiian bench or offshore. It just goes straight down to the bottom of the Pacific at a 60-degree angle. So it does get very deep very quickly out there. So it takes a lot of material to create the new land. When the lava does enter the ocean, while creating all the smoke and steam and new land, the lava also creates black sand for the black sand beaches. The black sand is created when the molten lava enters the ocean. Some of it tends to cool so rapidly that it explodes violently. Those particles would then wash on shore, accumulate, form the black sandy beaches or black sandy areas. Black sand is very similar to your white or yellow sand beaches, except it's a little bit more on the coarse side, and of course it's made by lava rock as opposed to coral. Black sand, when it's first created, is very sharp, very similar to broken glass, but then with time it actually erodes and gets a little safer. As the lava creates the land outward, of course the ocean tends to erode it back inward. There's always a constant battle going on here for real estate. The ocean will erode the lava fields from the underside first, as you can see along here. So there are times there's large chunks of rock that'll just break off the coast and fall into the ocean. This coastline here is very unstable. At times those chunks of rock will exceed 100 feet wide. You can see the crack right along there. Although this eruption started in 1983, it didn't take the lava until 1986 for it to reach the shoreline. Since that time in 86, it's added over 500 acres of new land to the island, and it's covered an area of over 35 square miles. So pretty much the shoreline you see along here is all less than 3 years old. So especially at the delta or benches, as scientists like to call it, it's a lot younger than that, just a couple of weeks old. And there's a range of the highway. Up until about 2 years ago, this spot right there was the end of the highway. You could drive to here, and then from there you could walk in. So all the lava to the left, and I guess behind us, there was all in the last 2 years. Some of the shinier lava to be seen here on the surface, that's the newest stuff. What happens as the lava flows from the surface and it hardens and solidifies, some of it will form a shiny outer coating or crust. This crust is very thin and not resistant to weather, and it will erode away to the harder, darker surface underneath. Eventually, with time, this whole area will be the same color. Instead of a dull black or grayish color, it'll lose its silvery or shiny tinges to it. The lava flow you see up towards the left, the dark stuff, that's from a different lava flow. That one there's from the 70s, 1972, and that eruption lasted only for 4 years, and then it stopped. As you can see, it never quite reached the ocean. Of course, that eruption site was covered by this current eruption. This area here ahead of us is the Royal Garden Subdivision, or what's left of it. This is the area where they had 80 homes destroyed since the current activity started. Most of the homes you see in there remaining, the people have officially been evacuated out, and all the roads into that area were covered over by the lava. Up until about 2 years ago, with the completion road here that built right on a lava field here below us, that area was completely isolated from the rest of the world. Most of the homes that were destroyed are right in this area here below us. As you can see, there's no ruins or remains to indicate that there are any structures here. Everything's been just completely destroyed or covered over. Within the first year of the eruption, there was approximately 16 homes destroyed. Since the initial eruption site occurred in such a remote area, people had ample enough time to evacuate. So people had so much time that they physically moved their whole house out of the way. And that area there towards the right, that's the Kilauea Garden Subdivision. In that area, they lost about 60 homes in the year 1990, just in that 1 year. Those homes you see the remaining were evacuated out, but then since the activity there has ceased, those homes are easily accessible. Most, if not all of those homes there are now occupied. In all, there was approximately 200 structures destroyed from this lava flow that started in 1983, and the last home was destroyed in the summer of 1991. Out here you may notice that there are two types of lava, Pahoehoe and Pu'u O'o. The Pahoehoe is the smooth, fluid, shinier type of lava you see here below us. It's lighter in color, kind of ropey in texture. It's called Pahoehoe. The other type is called Pu'u O'o, and the Pu'u O'o is the coarse, rocky, jagged type of lava. It actually looks like someone's been digging in the lava rock. That's how it occurred naturally. It's called Pu'u O'o. The main difference between the two types are pretty much the temperatures when they're in their molten states. Temperatures at the Pahoehoe range anywhere from around 1,000 to 2,000 degrees. At times it'll reach temperatures of up to 2,800 degrees, as opposed to the Pu'u O'o, which will range in temperatures of just around 700 or 800. Also, the Pahoehoe type will have a lot more trapped gas in it than the Pu'u O'o, and the times the Pahoehoe is flowing, it'll lose some of this trapped gas and actually change into the Pu'u O'o type. But it's never the other way around. And if the Pahoehoe retains the trapped gas, it'll then solidify into the Pahoehoe type of lava. Once the lava flows to the surface and it hardens, solidifies, and about 4 or 5 years go by, plant life will start to grow back. One of the first things out here to come back are small types of ferns and mosses. The main reason for the accelerated growth in this area, of course, is due to the amount of rain that we have. You have some flows over on the west side of this island that are much, much older than any of the lava that we've seen out here, and they're completely devoid of life. They're still the original black color. Some of the flows we've seen out here that are just 1 or 2 years old. On that side of the island, the rain will range from about 37 inches in the Captain Cook area to about 4 inches in the Waikoloa area along the shoreline, compared to the 145, 280 on this side. Hilo town in 1989 received 137 inches of rain in that 1 year. That number went to in 1990 to over 212 inches of rain. That broke the record that was set in the middle 1920s of 207.4 inches. So the weather you see here right now today, actually ahead of us is beautiful with the blue skies and the sunlight. Behind us is normal with the rain showers and the clouds. The process that goes on out here today from when lava comes up inside the earth to the surface and at times will flow on the surface and then create new land at the shoreline, that is the exact same process that created this entire island, or the entire state of Hawaii for that matter. That process started approximately 40 to 70 million years ago when the first vent formed on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. That vent continued to grow to create the first island approximately 20 million years ago. That process continued until today, after creating the 132 separate little islands that comprise the Hawaiian archipelago. This island here, the island of Hawaii, or the Big Island, as people like to call it, has been estimated at just under 1 million years old. Somewhere about 800,000. The land area below us, even this heavily vegetated area, has been estimated anywhere from 200 to 400 years old. Compare that to the continental land masses that range in the 300 million years. And these islands are in the geological infancy. We have another island forming. Right now it's approximately 20 miles off the southeastern coast of this island. It's still over 3,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. It's been classified as a seamount, and the scientists refer to it or call it Lo'ihi. They also estimate it'll take another 66,000 years for that seamount to grow to form a new island. The Hawaiian Islands are situated in what they call the Pacific Plate. When you're talking plate tectonics, the Pacific Plate is actually moving on the Earth's surface at a rate of approximately 3 to 4 inches per year to the northwest. It's taking the Hawaiian Islands along with it. So the next time you're visiting Hawaii, we will be in slightly a different location. So not only is this island getting larger, it is also moving too. I believe the rate at which the Pacific Plate is moving is very similar to the rate to which your fingernails will grow. To give you some idea of just how large this island is, it took the combined efforts of several volcanoes to create it. Volcanoes include Kilauea. Kilauea is considered to be one of the most active volcanoes on this planet, and as you know, Kilauea is currently erupting. The current eruption site has occurred on its eastern slope along what is called the East Rift Zone. The eruption has been classified as a flank eruption as opposed to a summit eruption. I believe the last time Kilauea had a summit eruption was in 1982. This current eruption site, Pu'u O'o, has occurred at the 2,500 foot level elevation, and the total elevation of Kilauea is slightly over 4,000 feet. Another volcano that we have on this island, another active volcano, is called Mauna Loa. Mauna Loa is considered to be the largest volcano. Its estimated volume is approximately 10,000 cubic miles, and Mauna Loa covers approximately 1/2 of this island. The last time Mauna Loa erupted was in 1984, and that was a flow that came within 8 miles from the outskirts of Hilo. That was also the first time this century that we had 2 active volcanoes erupting at the same time on the same island, both Mauna Loa and Kilauea. Mauna Loa's eruption started in March of 1984, and it lasted luckily for only a couple of weeks because the town of Hilo was directly in its path. Mauna Loa's pretty much been quiet ever since the eruption in '84, except maybe for some earthquakes and tremors, and there's been some reports of steam emanating from the summit of Mauna Loa, and the elevation of that volcano is 13,677 feet. The latest predictions we get from the scientific community in regards to Mauna Loa, they state that within the next 5 years, Mauna Loa should erupt again. The only thing is they made that prediction over 8 years ago, so we're either overdue for an eruption or overdue for another prediction. And another volcano that we have on this island is called Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is considered to be the tallest volcano, but measured from the base or floor of the Pacific Ocean to its peak, measures 32 to 37,000 feet, and when measured from sea level, puts it at 13,796 feet, making it the tallest point in the state of Hawaii. Some of the rocks found on top of Mauna Kea date back to approximately 400,000 years, and approximately 15,000 years ago, the top of Mauna Kea was totally glaciated during the Ice Age. Last time Mauna Kea erupted was approximately 3,000 years ago, and Mauna Kea has been given the designation of being a dormant volcano, which means it may or it may not erupt again. Nobody really knows for sure. There has been no Hawaiian legends associating Mauna Kea with any type of volcanic activity. The scientists of today are monitoring and measuring. They find there's a lot of seismic activity, like earthquakes and tremors occurring within the volcano itself. So they really don't know exactly what's going on inside. And the total area of this island is slightly over 4,000 square miles. And at one time it was getting larger. Up until now I've flown over the side slope of both the Kilauea and Mauna Loa volcanoes, both of which are very young or new volcanoes, geologically speaking. A lot of the land that we just flown over is all less than 2,000 years old. Now we're coming up over the southern slope of Mauna Kea. Of course, Mauna Kea here is a lot older, so you'll see a lot more of the natural erosion, a lot more rivers and streams. First river we're seeing here ahead of us, actually in the trees, that's the Wailuku River. If you came into Hilo from the north on Highway 19, just before you came into town, even over the large storm bridge or metal bridge, well, that was the Wailuku River that you're over. This area up ahead, actually more towards the left of the aircraft, literally has thousands of waterfalls in it. Most of the waterfalls here are the really tiny ones, so like the ones you see here shortly. Unlike the waterfalls you would see in the island of Maui or on Kauai, again, the land here is just so new that natural erosion hasn't taken its toll yet on the surface. I suppose if you came back out here in about 1 million years or so, the waterfalls would be a lot taller. But I don't think I'm around to give you the tour. Okay, the first waterfall you see coming into view up ahead to the left is called Pahoehoe Falls, and then there's a larger one right at the left door there called Hawaii Falls. And this whole area that we're in right now is called Pahoehoe. We're just west of the town of Hilo. You would think with all the rain that we have in this area that there'd be a lot more water flowing in the stream. Well, the land here below is still basically lava rock. Lava rock is a very porous material, and it tends just to soak up the water rather readily. That's why even with the high amount of rainfall, there's very little flooding. Below us here in the rainforest, you can see some of the Hapū ferns. I believe there's 420 different varieties of ferns in existence. And this island has about 400 of them. So pretty much kind of the market when it comes to different types of ferns, from the real small stuff to the rather large stuff like you see here. A lot of the waterfalls in this area here, most of the taller ones, do have names for them. Some of them have this really long Hawaiian name that could never really say and fly at the same time, but these are pretty easy. The taller trees you see here ahead of us and below us, that's the eucalyptus, or a type of eucalyptus. And that too, like the macadamia nut, was imported from Australia. The shorter trees you'll be seeing in between the eucalyptus or ahead of us, that's the ohia tree. And the ohia has a blossom called the lehua blossom. And that blossom comes in a couple of different colors, red and yellow being the most common, and then you also have white, pink, and some other colors that are very rare. The lighter green fields you see here below us, these are all abandoned sugarcane fields. As you can see, it does extend up the Hamakua coast. Now, this island has a lot of agricultural land that's not really being used for anything. Also, this island here no longer produces any commercial sugar. Some of the crops that have replaced some of the sugarcane include macadamia nuts, and you'll see some macadamia nuts ahead of us. These are the darker green fields. Other crops that here include ginger that they use for cooking, and also a variety of dry land taro. And these are taro root to make poi, because poi is the Hawaiian staple food. Ahead of us here you can see Hilo Bay, the large wall you see just offshore there, that's the breakwater. And that was built just to protect the bay from some of the strong waves that we get through here every once in a while. That wall there is built entirely out of lava rock, and it is built on a reef called Blonde Reef. Along there protecting the bay, the breakwater also protects the harbor that's right at the base of the breakwater. Along protecting the harbor, the breakwater also protects the harbor. It covers a main port on this island. Most oil goods come in out of that port on large cargo ships and barges, and then from there distributed out to the rest of this island. The airport you see ahead of us, that's the Hilo International Airport. Why they call it international, I'll never know. We do not have any international flights in or out of Hilo, except for some cargo and military flights. Hilo at one time had the longest runway in the state. It was actually designated as an alternate or emergency landing site for the space shuttle. Then they built the reef runway on the island of Oahu at the Honolulu International, and that sort of took our title here away from us. Well, hope you enjoyed your flight. Thank you for flying with Blue Hawaiian helicopters. Upon landing, please remain in the aircraft until someone comes out to help you disembark. Keep in mind that this is a helicopter. We do have a tail rotor behind us, and it likes to eat people. Let's not feed it this afternoon. It's best to remain in front of the aircraft when disembarking. Passengers sitting here up front will be going out the left door. Passengers in the back will be going out the right door. You will be asked to remain in front of the aircraft before being escorted to the gate. Keep in mind, the camera is still pointing directly forward, and it pretty much catches everything, so you might want to watch what you do while you're standing there.
I remember the beginning, we were younger then. Used to play in the scene, we'd both pretend. But that was then and now, our moments come again. So do we throw it all away? Is this the end? It's been a good time together, looking for the warmth of the sun. It's gonna be a long time together, and the best is yet to come. We have seen the ones that could not make the grade, hiding broken hearts, living the masquerade. And if it's magic that will be do, let's not be afraid to sing our song of love that we've already made. It's been a good.
This blast in 1980, Mount Kilauea's 1983 eruption was not an explosion. Instead, it was a geyser of molten rock from deep within the earth. Boiling hot lava has continued to pour from Kilauea since that day, making it the longest known eruption in history. Lava usually flows slowly enough to warn people of its approach. Many local residents are able to view the raging volcano from inside their homes. When the flow approaches a house, the best defense is a garden hose. This won't stop the lava, but it hardens the surface and redirects the flow. This house was protected by a hose, but in only a month, the 6-inch deep flow created a wall of lava 6 feet high. Although a garden hose may divert the flow for a while, eventually the relentless lava will reach the house. The heat from the lava ignites the building, destroying it completely. A more traditional method for dealing with the threat is to try appeasing Pele, the volcano goddess. People offer her pineapples, grapes, poi, and flowers. But what she really likes is a good bottle of gin. Long ago, pigs and dogs were sacrificed to pacify Pele, and occasionally even a man was offered up. Women, however, were never sacrificed. Despite the offering of a bottle of gin to Pele, this house was unable to avoid a fiery fate. Another tactic is to build a barrier out of boulders formed by previous flows. While this slows and temporarily diverts the lava, eventually the steady flow conquers the makeshift barricade and claims another home. In the early 1950s, the governor declared an emergency when a lava river threatened the town of Pahoehoe. Every bulldozer in the state was summoned to build a levee 1 mile long and 15 feet high. But the lava river burrowed under the levee and in one night consumed every building in Pu'u O'o. Sometimes the hardened remains of previous flows form a natural barrier, but new flows have overcome obstructions as high as 30 feet and poured into inhabited areas. The best way to save a house is to move it completely out of the lava's path. Sometimes this major undertaking must be done on little notice, and people work around the clock to save their homes.
2 o'clock in the morning.
Tearing things out of your house.
Tearing our beautiful stained glass windows out in the dark.
Once the house has been moved away from the threat, a new problem arises: where to go? New roadside communities spring up temporarily when people park their homes and try to figure out what to do next. For those people lucky enough or smart enough to own mobile homes, getting out of harm's way is quick and easy. You just drive away. Other people ignore the threat. This couple added a deck to their home despite their clear view of lava-generated steam nearby. A year later, their deck was ruined when a new lava flow destroyed their house. Another man also discounted the risk.
Figure if I make it a couple of years, it's worth it. Even if the whole thing goes, I'll just leave with a smile and remember the good times.
A year later, with a lava flow close to his house, his attitude remained laid back.
No, I still don't believe it. I still don't believe it'll take my house in particular.
Yet another surge of lava convinced him to hire a company to move his house as rapidly as possible.
Oh, about 3 days ago, I just got a gut feeling. The man came to us, he said he has a young family, the house is not insured, and if we can help him to get it out tonight.
4 days after the house was moved, the lot on which it stood was covered with solid black rock. When an insurance company canceled one man's policy, he became determined to save his home.
They're trying to get rid of me for any excuse they can think of. I got a day and a half left of insurance and the lava's a couple hundred yards away.
The community rallied behind him. Friends and neighbors moved his belongings. Professional movers worked together to quickly relocate his house. And utility companies lifted power and telephone lines to let his house through.
Getting it out in the nick of time. Looks like they're going to get it out without scorching anything.
Ironically, having your house survive a lava attack is sometimes the worst thing that can happen. You're cut off from utilities, and your backyard is transformed from tropical paradise to lunar landscape. Your property value plummets. And when local roads are buried by lava, if your home is spared, you may have to drive as many as 60 miles to get mail and groceries. Insurance will cover the losses if lava consumes your home. But if you're trapped in a kipuka, as the spaces surrounded by hardened flows are called, you're out of luck.
It's real nerve-wracking going back and forth not knowing whether you're going to live here or not.